Hi, I'm Lucy and welcome to Beautifully Unfinished, the podcast that holds space for all of us navigating midlife. It's the good bits, it's the difficult bits, and it's all the glorious, messy bits in between. If you've joined me before, welcome back. And if this is your first time, I'm so glad you're here. Today I want to talk about something that's been sitting with me for a while now. It's a very simple story that I was sent by a dear friend of mine, and some of you may have heard about the story before, but lately it's taken on a much deeper meaning for me. It's the story of a potato, an egg, and a coffee bean. Now stay with me here, because this isn't really a story about vegetables or breakfast. It's a story about life. It's about adversity. It's about what happens when life turns up the heat and how each of us responds when we are faced with circumstances we never wanted and never expected. Because if there's one thing that I've learned over the last few years, it's that none of us get through life without spending some time in boiling water. At some point, life serves all of us with a challenge. A heartbreak, betrayal, perhaps a health scare, financial stress, grief, disappointment, loneliness, or simply the realization that the life we imagine isn't quite the life we've ended up living. And when those moments arrive, they reveal something very important. Not who we pretend to be, not who we present to the world, but the person we become when we're under pressure. The story begins with a young woman who comes home feeling completely overwhelmed. Nothing seems to be going right. Every time she solves one problem, another one appears. She's exhausted, sound familiar? Discouraged, frustrated, and honestly just wondering how much more she can take. Now, if we're being truthful, most of us have had seasons just like that. Maybe some of us are going through one right now. This young girl was rambling on to her dad, and he invites her into the kitchen. Without saying very much, he fills up 3 pots, and in each of them he puts on the stove, and when the water begins to boil, he puts a potato in the first one, an egg in the second, and a coffee bean in the third. Then he waits. After a while, he turns off the stove and places all 3 items into separate bowls. The potato has now softened, the egg has hardened, and the coffee bean has transformed the water itself. The fascinating thing is all 3 face the same circumstances, the same boiling water, the same heat, the same pressure, yet they each emerged very differently. Now I ask you, isn't that exactly what life is? Some people go through remarkably similar circumstances and come out the other side as entirely different people. 2 people can go through, for example, a divorce. One becomes bitter and the other one becomes wiser. Or 2 people can experience betrayal. One carries anger for years while the other one finds peace. 2 people can lose everything that they thought they wanted. One stays stuck in what was, while the other discovers what could be. The difference isn't always what happened to them. The difference is often what happened inside them. Now, before I go further, I want to just say something really important. This isn't about blaming people for their pain. Some wounds run really deep. Some losses are devastating. Some seasons bring us to our knees. This is simply recognizing that whilst we cannot always choose what happens to us, we do have an influence over who we become because of it. Let's start with the potato. The potato, it starts off strong, firm, solid, resilient. If you looked at it before it went into the boiling water, you probably think that it could handle pretty much anything. Once the heat is applied, it softens. And if I'm honest, I think many of us have been potatoes at different stages of our lives. I know I certainly have. Life has a way of wearing us down. It's not always one dramatic event. Sometimes it's an accumulation of things. The disappointments, the responsibilities, the sleepless nights, the endless worry, the heartbreak, the pressure of trying to keep everyone else okay while struggling yourself? I think this will sound familiar to many people. And after a while, something begins to shift inside us. We become tired, not physically tired, but soul tired. We stop expecting good things. We stop believing joy is just around the corner. We stop dreaming about possibilities. We just survive, but we truly stop living. If you're listening today and recognizing a little bit of yourself in the potato, please know there's no judgment, none at all. Sometimes life hits hard. Sometimes it keeps hitting hard. And sometimes simply getting through the day is an achievement in itself. Awareness isn't criticism. It's just often the beginning of healing. I remember one evening, not long after I left the family home, I came back to my little cottage, exhausted, overwhelmed. I was worried about all sorts. Money, questioning my decisions, missing my pets, missing familiarity, missing the future I thought I was going to have. Everything felt uncertain. I walked through the door, collapsed on the couch, picked up my guitar and proceeded to absolutely torture it. It was not a pretty sight. And then I started crying. And I cried and I cried and I cried. Not the elegant movie style type, not with a gentle tear rolling down my cheek. I mean the full production type, where there's tissues everywhere. My heart was somewhere up in my throat. I was sobbing. For the first time, I wasn't just grieving the end of a marriage. I was grieving the loss of a life I'd known for decades. And in that moment, I genuinely couldn't imagine feeling excited about life again. I couldn't see joy. I couldn't see hope. And I certainly couldn't see the life that I'm living today. And then my neighbor, wonderful lady, popped across the lawn. She took one look at me, saw the mountain of tears, one look at the guitar, and quietly decided that whatever was happening in my cottage was well above her pay grade, and she made a very swift exit. Looking back now, we laugh. And we think about that moment where my life was so desperate. That evening, I was definitely a potato. Then there's the egg. Now, the egg starts off vulnerable. It's soft, it's open, it's tender. And when the heat comes, the inside hardens. I think many of us have been there as well. When people hurt us, disappoint us, betray us, or break our trust, we naturally want to protect ourselves. So we build walls. We become cautious, guarded, a bit cynical, suspicious. We tell ourselves we're being sensible. And to a degree we are, but sometimes protection slowly turns into isolation. The walls we build around us to keep the pain out can also keep the love out. The walls that protect us from the disappointment can also block the joy. The walls that shield us from heartbreak can prevent connection. From the outside, becoming the egg, it looks like strength. But often beneath that hard shell is simply someone who's been hurt deeply and trying not to be hurt again. There was a moment in my life, a period when I definitely was the egg. After being betrayed, after giving more chances than I probably should have, after desperately wanting to keep my family together, I slowly became someone I hardly recognized. I became a detective. I analyzed everything, questioned everything, investigated everything. I literally created an entire network-worthy storyline in my head. It was Oscar-winning stuff. I connected dots that weren't necessarily dots. I prepared for disasters that hadn't even happened. I was constantly scanning for danger. And do you know what all that effort gave me? Absolutely no peace, no certainty, no happiness, definitely no joy. Looking back now, I can see that staying in that state hurt me far more than I ever realized, because the thing about becoming an egg, at first it feels a bit like protection, right? Everything eventually becomes a prison. And then we get to the coffee bean. This is my personal favorite. The coffee bean faces exactly the same water, the same pressure, the same heat, and instead of being changed by the environment, it changes the environment itself. The heat doesn't destroy it. The heat releases what's already inside it. Isn't that a beautiful thought? What if the hardest seasons in our lives don't create our strength? What if they reveal it? What if resilience was already there? What if courage was already there? What if wisdom was already there? The coffee bean doesn't pretend life isn't difficult. It doesn't deny grief. It doesn't even bypass pain. It doesn't stick an emotional quote over the wound and call it healing. Instead, it allows the experience to deepen it, to enrich it, to even transform it. And in doing so, it creates something far richer than what existed before. Perhaps that's what beautifully unfinished really means. Not that life is perfect, not that we've escaped hardship, but somehow that the things that could have destroyed us has become part of what's shaping us. These days, I feel as though I'm slowly becoming a coffee bean. Not because life suddenly became easy. Trust me, it didn't. Not because hurt disappeared. It didn't. But because somewhere along the way, I chose to open my heart again. I chose hope. I chose gratitude. I chose to believe that my future wasn't determined by my worst experiences. When I look back now, I can honestly see moments of grace along the journey. People appearing when I needed them the most. Lessons arriving at exactly the right time. Doors opening where I couldn't see a way forward. Tiny threads weaving together a future that I couldn't yet imagine. Yet today I have peace. I have hope. I have joy. I have excitement. I have love. I look forward to every day that is ahead of me. Not because I know exactly what the future holds, but because I've learned that some of life's greatest gifts arrive disguised as endings. One of the greatest gifts of getting older is realizing that none of us truly arrive. We're still learning, we're still growing, we're still healing, we're still becoming. I think at 20, we think we know everything. At 30, we think life should be a carefully planned out map. At 40, we think we should have all the answers. And somewhere around 50, life gently smiles back at you and says, "Hey, sweetheart, we're not finished yet." And thank goodness for that, because there's still adventures to be had. There's still lessons to learn, still love to give, still joy to experience, still parts of ourselves waiting to be discovered. So today I want to leave you with a question. What has life's boiling water done to you? Has it made you soft? Has it made you hard? Or has it revealed something beautiful that was already inside you? Because here's what I know. You can't always control the heat. You can't always control what life serves up. But you do get to decide who you become and how you respond. Perhaps the goal isn't to avoid the boiling water. Perhaps the goal is to become the coffee bean, to emerge wiser, kinder, more compassionate, more grateful, and more beautifully unfinished. Looking back, there were certainly times when I was a potato. There were times when I became an egg. But these days, I'm learning to become coffee. Not because life got easier, but because I finally realized that the heat wasn't there to destroy me. It was helping me discover who I was. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. If this episode resonated with you at all, I'd love it if you would follow, subscribe, and like, and share it with someone who just might need to hear this. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep brewing, keep becoming, and remember, we are all beautifully unfinished. Bye for now.